As you know, I'm a management consultant. They're very systematic in where I look at things. The first version in 2010 is to create it first. The second version is to innovate. Stage 3 is to sustain it, don't lose money. Stage 4, expand. Singapore, we grow bigger. Then in 2019, I come to Hong Kong. The final stage is succession because I need to be replaced.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Rich Brubaker, founder of Collective Responsibility, here today with another episode of the Mission Driven Podcast. On a regular basis, I'm speaking with entrepreneurs, bankers, accelerators, professors in the ecosystem, just trying to figure out what does it take to successfully launch, bring to scale, and solve real problems. So with that, I'm extremely honored to have my good friend from many years back, Seng Choon, who is the founder of Project Dignity. He's not your standard social or mission-driven entrepreneur by training. He's actually an engineer who established a Singapore-based social enterprise called Project Dignity back in 2010 to train and place the differently abled into employment. SC, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you here to talk about the mission you're on, the work you're doing. And as a starting point, it'd be great to have you introduce yourself and the mission that you're on.
First of all, Richard, it's been good to see you. It's been a long while and it's a very tedious time over the last few years. I'm a foundryman by training. I did my apprenticeship in Sheffield in United Kingdom and I lived there for 12 years. In 94, I came back to Singapore. I worked for Coopers and Librans, and then later on I started my own business, which I take China company to develop in India. India to develop China. 2006, I realized I started this journey of taking social entrepreneurship. Now, if you remember 2006, nobody knows what is a social enterprise, only a Grameen Bank. So I started a journey in 2006. I start looking for place, looking for people. At that time, I still running my business of going to India, China, Dubai, everywhere, develop, right? Then in 2010, actually, I registered the first Project Dignity Private Limited in Singapore. The mission is to return dignity to the disabled and disadvantaged people through vocation with passion.
What was the catalyst? Was there something that happened to you that said, I'm going to make the jump? Like what was the catalyst to make that jump in 2006?
For those who have been to Singapore, you don't see beggars on the floor. You don't see homeless people. You don't see disabled people, shopping center, nothing. And that's where I realized there are people like that. And I went to find the answer. In the course of finding answer, I realized there's another part of Singapore that people don't know or people don't want to know. And that's how the journey started. So from there on, it's just something that driven me to actually giving back. Moving forward, in 2010, I started the first hawker store. Behind me is just one store by itself. And I bring in people who are either physically challenged, so they lost a limb, mentally challenged, are schizophrenic, bipolar, depression, let me categorize it. The social ones are the abuse cases, single mother, prisoners, and the last one is intellectual, IQ 70 below. So physical, mental, social, intellectual. Anything from 17 years old to 87 years old.
When you're looking at this problem in Singapore, you're not seeing the homeless on the streets, you're not seeing the disabled, but you know that they're there. Can you talk a little about why are they in hiding? What are the systems at play that keep them either home or hidden from the general public? And then when you started this, what were the systems that you were trying to break apart, or what was the pain point that you were trying to solve?
Singapore has very good infrastructure, especially for the poor and disabled people. There are schools, there are special needs schools to help all these people. You can train them, but what after you train, what happened? You can cure them in a hospital, mental hospital. What happened after the cure? What happened? That part is, I felt, placing them with job, getting them life goes on that's why I started the various project. Is what to train and place these people. Hospital, all this have, but you got to find the placing part, making them live on and livelihood goes on. So coming back what I said, first I must skill them. Later, I must give them employment. I must find them job. And if I cannot get you job, I create jobs. Third thing I need to do is integrate back to society. So what you see behind me is a hawker center, a food court in Singapore. This is the integration center. Everybody needs to eat and you need a platform. So that behind me is a platform.
Why didn't you try and find an organization in Singapore to work with? Why start your own? And then second is, did you have to focus on one group to get a start, or how did that process start for you?
Okay, first of all, the answer to the first question is, I'm not a charity. I don't have charity status. I don't have Chapter 88 in Hong Kong. I don't have Institution of Public Character in Singapore. I realized that a social enterprise should be a social enterprise. It should not be depending on charity money to give it to you. And that's my first thing I want to do. I want to stand on my own. A lot of people say, oh, we start a social enterprise, get government grant to support you. I always believe that grants are icing on the cake. If you get it, good. If you don't get it, tough. And if you depend on grant to support you and start your social enterprise, then you better don't start at all. So I decided that I always got this principle, think big, start small.
What were like the core principles of the organization or the mission that you're on? And, how are you then creating systems that delivered that?
The basic principle is the same. Return dignity to these people. If you give them back their self-respect and dignity, they can do a lot of things because they're self-respect, right? You need to look at them, look at their ability, not disability. Thirdly, very important thing is to be patient and to have the passion. Fourth thing, you need a group of people. I'm not a one-man show.
When starting up, what was the impact that you were hoping to have? Were you thinking really big? Were you thinking just solve a Singapore challenge? Or were you thinking, let's go global with this?
As you know, I'm a management consultant. They're very systematic in where I look at things. The first version in 2010 is to create it first. The second version, when we move on to the next place, is to innovate. Stage 3 is to sustain it. Don't lose money. By the time that 2024 or 25, I break even already. Stage 4, expand. So in 2020, 2019, 2020, I expand. Singapore, we grow bigger to a 10,000 square feet warehouse. Then in 2019, I come to Hong Kong. The final stage is succession because I need to be replaced. The first thing I did when I first started stage 1 is to think of the final stage, how to find the people to manage it. The second thing is stewardship, the shareholding. My final version for stewardship is to IPO a social enterprise. Now, let me explain why the IPO come in. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you talk about social, nobody cares. No such thing as ESG, CSR, SDG. But 10 years later, every company has to do social good. It's listed on their annual report. I believe in the years to come, there will be a social enterprise listed on the stock exchange. Why? First thing, I can't recruit people, young people, because they are very highly paid now. So if I'm a listed entity, I can recruit them. Second thing, when you buy a share, you're looking for financial. But now people buy share, they are also looking for the number of people that serve the poor, number of disabled people trained, number of people employed. And the third reason is the most important reason. So in the last, 15, 16 years I've been doing this. There are social enterprise, charity. They are all begging for money. I use the word begging for money to do social good. Richard, where's the biggest pool of capital? The stock exchange, the capital market. So my dream one day is how to link these two together. And the only way to link them together is a listed entity.
Are you looking at driving to an IPO now? Because if not, why not? Because you're one of the only organizations that's even scaled borders.
So I think it would be another 5, maybe 10 years time, some social enterprise were listed to capture the capital market. That's all. So basically,
is it you? Do you want to be the guy who does the first one? And
but it's not that simple. If let me explain something. There's no social enterprise like mine at the moment. First of all, very importantly, there's social impact. I train thousands and place thousands. Just the mailbox to the poor. Okay, what's the social impact? I give mailbox to the working poor every day. I've done over 1 million. Second thing, right, we have social impact. Second, we are sustainable. The third one is more important. There is no, what you just said, there's no social enterprise in Singapore and Hong Kong on its own has scale overseas. And you don't forget, Singapore to scale to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the toughest market for F&B in the world. And we did it.
What are some of the things that you learned internally to your business that as you grow, become a challenge that you have to solve so you can grow again?
Never stop. Richard, never stop learning. You think I know about hawker center? I know nuts about hawker center, right? But over the years, I always got this policy, never stop learning. So what I always do is like, okay, now I'm onto a new project now. I'm trying to focus on aging population. So the next 3 years, I'm going to focus on something quite unique. First of all, soft food or care food or what they call gastrointestinal diet. The Asian population is growing. People need soft food. And in Hong Kong, Singapore, soft food can be very expensive. So I decided, why don't we do the hawker version of soft food? So I'm coming up with a launch last month, chicken rice in soft version. Laksa in soft version. Secondly, aging population produce 2 very big issues, dementia and cancer recovery. 3 years ago, we start training dementia. We screw up big time. We don't know how to do it. They cannot remember things. Secondly, they cannot work long hours. They cannot work alone. So a lot of problems. And they got other medical problem. And we mess up. So I'm going to open another Dignity Kitchen to recruit dementia. But dementia alone cannot work. So we bring the next category of people. cancer recovery. Now, why these two groups? These two groups are aging population. As you grow older, you got cancer, you got dementia, you got cognitive impairment. But
Yeah.
these two groups are not considered disabled, which means they don't have a lot of support. Medical fees is not medical expenses is expensive. So I put them together. Now, this can only work in Singapore and Hong Kong. Now, remember when it comes to Singapore, they got economy rice, the 2 dishes, 1 rice method. They scoop.
Yeah.
So dementia, all you need to do is scoop and serve. But
Yeah.
who's going to collect the money? We're going to get the cancer people to pack and collect the money.
Okay.
So this thing I'm building now, I'm looking for a site in Singapore. I'm looking for a Hong Kong site to build this one.
But here's a question I have to an entrepreneur is you have all these very different ideas that you're trying to bring to market all at the same time. Is that a smart idea? Like, shouldn't you just focus on one and finish it and move to the next one and finish it? Why try and do all of these at the same time?
2 reasons why I do all 3 in the same time, because first of all, I have the resources. I have the people now. I'm not small. I'm 200 people behind me now. 80% are disabled. 50% are over 50 years old. Second thing is the timing is right. And because the two places now are open up, there's a lot more positive drive going on. I can replicate this in China anytime. Right.
How do you involve the 80% into that process, into the piloting?
No, before they got their illness or disability, they are a professional. I got baker with only 1 leg, but he bakes very well with 1 leg. That's all. You know what I mean? So of the 80%, there are also management inside there. One thing I learned over the years is you must allow them to go through that meltdown, whatever that period is. I got people who are on cancer tablets. When they are on tablet, oh my God, but my boy here who's on kidney dialysis, when they're on dialysis, the whole day he can forget about job for him. They can still do things, but you must be more understanding and compassionate towards this.
Besides having more empathy and more patience, what fundamentally is different about managing this group of people? And can you get the same out of them as you would out of 100 Harvard MBAs? Or
no, it all starts with people. Look for the people who really have a heart. Try to work with them. Not all the time we are successful. Dignity Kitchen has physical, mental, social, intellect, all in one area. And this is why it works. A single mother will work with a dementia person. A schizophrenic will work with a cerebral palsy. They help each other because they are challenged. So it's a matter of understanding him, understand their limitation, and look at their ability. And they are very good. They are very good at what they do. And they, by the way, they don't job hop.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I have in Project Dignita is that they don't want to leave the place. That's my problem. If you don't leave my place, I can't get new one coming in. So that's my problem.
So, talk to me about how you approached fundraising through this, because you mentioned you don't want to be a begging charity. How did you approach the early days of that? And how has that changed as you scaled?
Just to sidetrack a bit, how do we earn money? We sell food. You come and buy food from me, I make money. You call up, I want chicken rice, 10 packet, I do delivery. Thirdly, I organize event. We have organized birthday, we organize event, because company now all have to do CSR. And that is where our major money is. The next one is rental. People use this space for parties, conferences. And finally, very importantly, is training. We conduct cooking classes and all that. Right.
Okay.
These 5 revenue generate about $26 million Hong Kong dollar, maybe 3 million US. It's profitable for many years.
You do all that through the 5 different revenue sources, which are all very market commercially oriented.
Right. It's driven.
Why not take money from the government?
Every training organization gets support from government. We do get some money from there. Getting money from government is very complicated. There are a lot of paperwork, documentation, transparent, a lot of paperwork. At the end of the day, I calculate the resources I need to put aside to do this. So in Singapore, we are supported. In Hong Kong, we are not. So basically, in answer to your question, I love government money. I'm very happy for government. But every government company comes with KPI. And when you don't meet, can be quite challenging.
And then kind of beyond government, what about private foundations or high net worth or charitable donations? I mean, there's a lot of money right now for inclusion or inclusive businesses. Why not take that money? It's there for you.
Coming to Hong Kong, we have a few organizations that actually support us. But in Hong Kong, most of these foundations are looking for what they call Chapter 88, charity status. Same as Singapore, because they get their tax return. But there are still people, individual, who actually does it. People want to see something that they give you. So you see, just now I told you the project like dementia, the mental. People see projects and they see the value of the project. Then they will step in. The second thing more important, show people what you actually do and don't
Yeah.
ask for one person with a lot of money, which is a lot of commitment. Ask 10%. Foundation, yeah, they also have KPI and budget and their restriction. So the
Yeah.
two things I want to share, entrepreneur, break the problem into small problem and find the
Yeah.
solution.
But I want to push back a little bit and say, why not have a nonprofit fundraising arm to your social?
Coming back
Like,
to your question.
why don't you like that? Because if the goal is to expand the mission, should you be so concerned about where the money comes from, especially if you're limiting the mission? So
first of all, I want to be a true social enterprise. If I fail, means I failed. The enterprise model don't work. But touch wood, it survived 13 years. Secondly, when you got charity status, there are a lot of accountability. You have a board of directors on top. Imagine the things I do is very new. No one has, come on, I have to report to the people up there. I will never work.
Right.
So that is the second criteria I do. The third one is more important. Remember from day one, I told you I want to IPO a social enterprise. If I am a charity, I can't IPO at all.
So what do the next 13 years of Dignity Kitchen look like in your mind? Like, what's your vision going forward? And what do you have to do now to ensure the success of that 13th year?
The two questions. First of all, the next 13 years, you'll see many, many more.
Yeah.
Every country, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand want us to do prostitute. 14 years old is a prostitute, 27 years old. Taiwan give us $1 million US to start a site. Everybody wants to do this because this has a track record of success. So in the next 13 years, I hope to see many more set up for many different countries. If somebody say, Mr. Koh, we work with you, built in Indonesia, Malaysia, we will actually do that because we have the whole system set up ready for people to equip them. And also, second thing I want to do in the course of reaching that goal, I want to train a lot. We're coming out with a training program now to bring special people to see what we do, train them as internship. If they stay, good. If they don't stay, it doesn't matter. So the two things I need to do is focus on training a group of people. Secondly, open many countries.
All these opportunities, you have all these people who need this. Some are willing to pay you already. Should you yourself be the one who opens them, or can you create a software, a platform where others can kind of like a franchise model? They can open it.
Good question. That's a good question. I've been asked to franchise this model. My answer is very simple. You can't franchise kindness. You can franchise product, service. You can't franchise kindness because I've seen it work before. Remember, I'm a consultant before this. I how franchise work. If the franchisee doesn't see the result, the first thing they sack and they get rid of is the disabled person. That's what I saw. So my long-term plan is we will own it or partnership with somebody to build this thing. Right.
So if you can't franchise it and you want to do it yourself, how does your organization need to change to grow 3, 5, 10 more markets? How is that going to work if it's already been so difficult for you?
One of the dreams I have, my hope for Hong Kong is that one day Hong Kong people take care of Hong Kong people. At the moment, I'm a Singaporean doing this for Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So everything I do has to be localized.
Right,
Just
right.
for your information, somebody told me the other day about copyright and intellectual property. Do you know there's an imitation in Malaysia? There's an imitation in Hong Kong, in Indonesia. Indonesia is for straight kids. Hong Kong, the one in Malaysia is for refugees, kids.
Okay.
You know what happened? They use the word dignity, right? And dignity kitchen. I went to see them. I said, please carry on. I will help you one by one. You know why? If somebody replicate what we do, that means, to be honest, nothing here is trademark of intellectual property.
Yeah.
If you want this, I can give you the whole CD and you go and do it. If you did it right, it's good for your community. So until today, everything I do, the next country will be localized. Everything localized. We'll bring you to Singapore, train you, and send you back.
What are a couple of other things that you have learned through this journey as an entrepreneur? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about mission-driven organizations? What have you learned about delivering impact? What are some key lessons that if you're talking to an entrepreneur, you'd want them to understand? You've gone through 13 years of ups, downs, desert, snow. What's the lessons?
Okay, first thing first, on a personal basis, I learned to count your blessing. In the last 13 years, I've seen a lot of very special people. Let me tell you something. I don't have 200 people working for me. I have 200 families I'm helping because these kids were not able to get jobs. Some will end up in nursing homes. Some will end up in wherever, right? So I learned to be blessed, count my blessing. Second thing, I learned to be humble. You must love what you do. I love the passion. If you want something you do, invest time in it. Thirdly, never stop learning.
Mm.
Fourthly, very important, money is not how much you have, it's how you spend it. Success in life is not about how rich and how many property, how many cars you have. It's about legacy.
All right, last question. A future aspiring mission-driven entrepreneur has watched this and has an idea to solve a local problem, a big global problem. What are 3 pieces of advice you'd give that aspiring entrepreneur as they're getting started with their own mission?
First, believe in yourself. Because when I started this project, nobody believed in me. Secondly, believe in your vision. When the fighting goes on, people telling you, don't come back, go home, you know that you can make it and you can deliver to it. Thirdly, most important, the people that stand by you are your family. Your family, your real family, your son, your children. Sometimes have time for them. Don't just focus on getting the commercial side, building whatever palace you want to build.
Yep.
There's the people behind you that are always standing to you. Remember the vision, remember your tenacity, and more importantly, you remember your family. And that is the advice I can give you.